Live. Make sure the camera is straight here. I think we're looking good. I'm Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Today I'd like to do something different. I often talk about ways we can develop fluency and specific tips, but I actually wanted to just show you what this feels like. Because I myself am a learner of Japanese, and as I'm also trying to think about the best ways to learn things in an efficient way and make sure I understand things and am actually developing fluency. It's the same things that I teach, but often it's difficult to find ideal content. And so I wanted to talk a little bit. I'll give people a moment to get in the stream here, but instead of my usual videos where I'm just talking about specific ways of learning or even talking about the language or providing tips about grammar or things like that. I just wanted to start with a story, and I'm thinking about a new kind of series as a result of this. And I wanted to see if I could build that with you and what you think about it. But if you have any questions, let me know. But this video, I will try to keep it more specific. So questions specifically about what I'll be discussing. And if there are other random questions, I may save those for the end or not answer them at all, just because I want to make this the kind of content that I also enjoy learning with. So I wanted to talk about that. So just to begin, this was a few days ago here in Japan. I was watching a TV show with my family, just some kids' TV show, and I had, I don't know, it was just talking about various music and what, I don't know, whatever happened to be popular. And I remember hearing a song. It was Tegami, or it's just called Letter, I guess, in English, or that's not the full title, but by Angela Aki. And I remember hearing this song back in 2008 when I returned to Japan after I'd been gone for a little bit. And it was a popular song, and it's still a popular song. But I remember years ago when I heard it, and my Japanese was not very good yet, I would just hear that and just think, oh, that's a nice melody. But I didn't pay attention to the lyrics, really. I would just hear it on the radio or TV or something. But I wasn't really paying attention to the song because I couldn't understand it very well. But it was interesting how I heard it again recently, and I actually felt myself. I didn't get any information about what the song was about, or because I had no idea and I hadn't heard it. I know the song, I don't know the lyrics of it, but I actually felt myself starting to cry in a way. I was like tearing up. I'm gonna put this up here for you. To tear up, where you feel like you've got, tears are starting to come up in your eyes. And so I felt my eyes were getting a little bit red and a little bit watery. And I was just listening to the lyrics. Yeah, so that's the song. So I'll just put the singer. So this is a Japanese song called Tegami. I'll put the English here. But it's about like a girl writing a letter to her future self in a way. And so it's a really interesting song, but the important point was more that I actually felt moved by the song. So you could say I was moved by it. To be moved by the song. So I was emotionally moved by the song. And this was a proof of improvement in my Japanese. So I wasn't really thinking about it, but I just felt the song as I heard the lyrics. It's kind of like if you're in a room with people and you don't know what everybody else is saying. Maybe they're speaking different languages or you can't hear them very well. But then you hear somebody say your name, and then suddenly that clicks with you and you recognize what's going on, and you know somebody is looking for you or talking about you or something like that. And so this was a case where something I could not understand before and wasn't really trying to, but now I could, and I actually felt that. It wasn't just like an intellectual understanding of it. I felt that. And I wanted to talk about this today because it's an interesting thing where now, today in general, in life now, 2025 and beyond, it's never been easier to become fluent in English because there's so much information available. I'm sure there's even more information available for learning English than there is for learning Japanese, and there's certainly a lot of information about that. But it's interesting where more people have access to all this information, but you still have lots of people who struggle to speak. It's like the wheel of, the kind of hamster wheel is running faster, and people are struggling to catch up, but they don't actually feel a lot more confident. Maybe some people do, but it's interesting to see the same kinds of content getting released, like, stories about how some people are getting fluent, or here's how to do this, or here's how to deal with the same problems that people have always experienced with language learning. And these are some of the same experiences that I've also had with language learning. And so what I wanted to do today is try something new for like the kind of content I'd like to listen to myself. So often I take walks. That's one of my things I do during the day. I'm kind of known in my neighborhood around here. I put a little towel over my head because I get hot and sweaty walking up the mountains. And when people see me and I'd smile and say hello, I'm kind of the one foreigner in my area here in Japan where I live. And it's always nice to get out and see people and just walk around the neighborhood and see the plants and other things like that. And so while I do that, generally I like to listen to something. And it's nice if I can listen to some Japanese, like something I can listen to improve my Japanese, or just, maybe I don't care so much about improvement. It's just I'm trying to learn something, or just listen to some information about whatever. But before I get to that very quickly, let me just answer these questions here, make sure everybody's caught up. So George says hello. JH says I'm here. Jose from Colombia. Good evening, Drew from Canada, says Arola, and Tom is there. So letter future self. Is it a correct usage to be sent a letter to her future self? If so, letter can be used as a verb. Well, in this case, you wouldn't, like a paper letter like that, you wouldn't talk about lettering yourself. If I'm writing letters, if I'm writing like nice looking letters, that is a verb. Like to letter something means to put letters on it, but you wouldn't use to letter or something like that if you're talking about sending a mail, like a message like that. So anyway, English learners and even Japanese learners like myself, we are awash. I think I used this word recently, to be awash in, like awash in information. So we have lots of info, I-N-F-O, but we are missing, the thing we are missing, and this is what I thought about with that, with the song I heard, and that feeling of real improvement, and the thing we are missing is insight. So you can think about this as understanding, but when I talk with learners about saying that you understand English but you don't speak, often there's this preparation gap here where people know information but they still have questions about things and often struggle to learn. And so they're still trying to improve, and this is the same kind of thing that I deal with myself as a learner of Japanese. And so when I had that feeling that I actually had improved, that's literally a feeling telling me something, that is an insight about, I actually was weaker in Japanese and now I am better because I understand the language better. But when I was thinking about the specific kinds of content I like listening to, or I would like to listen to, and so I thought I would make this for you if you are interested in it. We'll just give it a try. when I'm trying to learn some Japanese, there are basically two different things that I can find, typically. We've got like lessons, and this is where people are similarly to how you might be learning Japanese, or excuse me, English, where you might get a grammar point or some vocabulary or something like that, and it's just a teacher explaining something, like I sometimes do. So it could be like specifically grammar or whatever. Like I've heard recently it was like a video game explanation. And so I thought this was an interesting thing, although it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. And I'll explain why in a moment. But the first kind of thing is typically lessons. And then the second thing is just kind of like talking about whatever. So this could be someone talking about their day or describing something or whatever. And this is just usually Japanese or English, whatever the language is, at a particular level. So you could have, what people might call comprehensible input, which is just trying to make something that you can understand this English at this level. But maybe if it goes too difficult, then that would be hard for you to listen to, that kind of thing. And so my problem with both of these things as I'm listening is often lessons are not really giving me enough insight. There's lots of information here, but for me personally, I notice the steps that I go through as I'm trying to become fluent in particular words and phrases. It usually goes through a particular set of steps, in the sense that like I'm understanding something better and better until I feel comfortable or confident about using it. And so often with lessons, like I will finish a lesson. Let's say I hear a lesson in Japanese about a particular grammar point or something. I'm usually left with questions and doubts about how to use that thing. And then the same thing is typically true for even just listening to content like people talking about their day or whatever. So both of these things will often leave me with questions or doubts. I just don't know. Like, okay, I kind of understood something and it's not really giving me insight. And typically insight is the first thing I'm looking for. And insight typically comes when I'm able to discover something myself based on what people are saying. And I talk about this in my book, The Strangest Fluency Secret, where the goal of the teacher is, if you're trying to make an arch like this, the teacher's job is to construct this, where you provide enough information that the student can feel smart when they put in this last piece here, the keystone. So if the teacher simply tells you this grammar point means this, or this vocabulary means that, and they just give you a translation, they're not letting you put this last piece in. So they're taking that opportunity for you to get the insight away from you. So if you can discover things in context, this is often where you have these insights, and maybe you've had these yourself. So while you're listening to something, maybe watching a TV show, even if you understand all of the information, like that you could call comprehensible input, but the insight usually comes where you actually discover something by yourself from the context. So the pieces are there and you complete the puzzle and you feel smart because you figured that out. So often when I'm hearing things like this, and I need to be careful about this myself when I'm teaching, I don't want to just tell people what something is. I'm trying to help them understand and build this for them so that you get that aha moment when you feel confident that you understand something. And the insight, though, isn't the only thing you need, because you can have an insight about something, you can feel confident about using something, and yet still struggle to use it because maybe you still have further questions or you just forget the word or whatever. So in both of these cases, like I'm listening to something and I know even repeating the lesson would probably not really give me much new information. It would give me some new information because when we're listening, so even right now, maybe you're listening to me talking or you're watching this, but you're suddenly thinking about what to have for dinner or, what to do tomorrow or whatever, something like that. So your ability to pay attention it's not always focused on where you want it to be. So like, let's say at the beginning of the video, you're focusing well, but then like during this point right here, you kind of think about something else. You kind of space out. You kind of space out a little bit, but then you come back and you're listening and focusing again. So because of this, it's useful to repeat information. And even if you watch this video again, you will probably discover some things, or you will hear some things that you did not notice the first time. Now, most people are not interested in repeating information because they think they already know. Another excellent example there, to zone out. It's kind of like this is the zone you should be in, but you're going outside of the zone like that, like thinking about something else. But yeah, it's an excellent example. And so when you're thinking about learning something, it is useful to repeat information and you will learn new stuff, but often it's not really giving you better ways of understanding things. And so what I'm typically trying to do is make a lesson about something and then give you that same lesson again in multiple ways. And if you know me, then you know this is Naturally Varied Review, where I'm trying to change things up just a little bit. Like here, this is a perfect example of this, where you have a situation like you're kind of daydreaming or you lose focus, to lose focus. Or your mind wanders. You're trying to keep your mind focused, but your mind wanders, like, just like you're outside, like a child walking around somewhere, not really having a particular goal, but the child is walking around, so your mind wanders. And this is a really great expression. All of these are, but this is an example of naturally varied review. So if you hear one thing, and even if you don't remember all of these, it's not important that you try to remember everything perfectly. Again, what we're really trying to do, and especially for me as a teacher, is I need to understand how people learn, and that people will zone out. They will lose focus, or they will space out, or their minds will wander, or whatever. And I know that people are less likely to actually feel like, okay, I have to review this information. So I want to make it as easy as possible for your brain. So instead of you repeating something, I have to trick your brain into repeating the information by giving it to you again and again in slightly different ways. And so this is an example of that. But all those are very good, especially zone out. That's a very good one. I'm like, I'm feeling a little bit spacey. You can even talk about feeling spacey. Like I can't focus. I can't keep my mind straight right now. I can't keep my head straight. But all of these, again, are the kinds of things where if I'm out for a walk, I would like to be hearing this kind of information. So right now, for example, maybe you're watching this. You don't have to watch this. I'm trying to teach this, like explaining things. I'm writing them up on the board for people who would like to see those. But I'm sure many people listen in the same way I do, where maybe you're driving or you're doing work or something like that. And so you'd like something to listen to where you don't have to watch it. You could watch it if you like, and I actually recommend you do. This is another part of Naturally Varied Review, where you take some piece of information and first you watch it or you just listen to it, and then you try doing the opposite, where you listen to it if you watched it the first time. And so in that way you can actually develop fluency, but it's not going to be like a lesson or just only talking about something. I want to take something and give you that naturally varied review, but over, I don't know how long it would be, but maybe some stories or something like that, but it's actually building your fluency. So what we're looking to do is give you as many of those insights as we can and that naturally varied review. And so you're getting a little bit of repetition, but it's something you can easily continue doing. So if I can give you one simple thing that you can do to listen to, you can actually listen to something and feel more confident. And by the end of listening to that thing, you would feel more sure or certain about using it. So you don't have to feel sure about everything, but you might learn a few words or phrases and feel, like that's actually something useful that I could put into my own conversations when I'm speaking. And so if that's interesting, I thought I would try that today. I don't know exactly how it works, but this might be something, since I am doing it live, it could be useful to have people with any questions they have, which is probably something that could, maybe if you have questions about the story or whatever. But since I mentioned walking, since I mentioned that, this is a good segue into a story. And so what I'd like to do is basically talk for a little bit and just have you listen to that. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to. The goal is really to make it easy to understand. And even if you're not watching, I want you to feel like you actually understand the lesson, not only that you understand it in like a everyday understanding sense, but you get those insights and you actually feel like you're learning something. So before we begin, let me see if I have any questions about that. But as I go, feel free to post any comments if you have questions about what I'm talking about or whatever, but this will be less about, some random thing that people are asking about. I actually just forgot what I was going to, what was that phrase? I was just about to teach a particular thing. But yeah, I guess it's not important. We'll see if it comes back up again. All right. De Andrade says, aha moments is the same key when you start to understand for yourself. Yeah, so for me, like the reason I teach the way I do is because this is how I like to learn. And it's not just me. Most people are typically doing things like that, where as you're learning, like you might spend an hour learning something, like right now you're listening to this. And thank you for joining me. You're spending some time doing this, and I don't want to waste your time. I want to, as much as I can, give you as many aha moments and really help you understand something, and not just about particular vocabulary, but how to speak. And so I might talk specifically about something or tell a story or whatever, but I want to make sure it's easy for people to listen to and still continue to improve even if you're not speaking. Because really what happens is the fastest way in an ideal world to get fluent is like you get insights really quickly about new information, and then you are able to answer any additional questions you have about that information. So you learn a new grammar point, like you see how something works. Like for me, like a Japanese example is like the difference between made and nicht. And so before I understood that, it took me a really long time to try to understand that. But as soon as I got the aha moment about how it worked, then I thought, oh, okay, that's much easier. And now if I have any questions about how to use it, like I'm still unsure, that's where maybe I can find out, okay, I'm unsure about the pronunciation, or I'm unsure about whatever the question is. But those are typically the kinds of things, it's this process. So I wouldn't say that like I actually am taking all this time to get fluent. A good teacher is really able to deliver this as quickly as possible. So, yeah, and again, I'm not just trying to give you lots of aha moments, but the point is, if you're listening to something, when I'm listening to something for learning Japanese and I'm just walking around and there are things I don't understand, so I can't understand enough from the context or whatever, it really frustrates me a lot. And I don't get angry or anything, but I'm just like, I'm walking, if I'm sitting at my computer, it would be easy to look something up, but I don't want to stop and try to look up a word or something like that. It means the information, and it's not like the teacher's fault or whatever. It's just, for me, if I hear something and I don't understand it, then I get very frustrated about that. And so I'm just like, I really want the ideal world is like I'm listening to something and then people make it actually understandable for me, and they, even better than that, they give me those aha moments where they present information so that it's easy to understand, and I actually feel smart because I figured something out myself rather than someone just explaining something to me. So if I continue here, let's see, we got Ollie, nice to see you there. And a little earlier today, actually, no, it's usual time here in Japan. English seems like a puzzle. Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that. It's funny you mentioned that. So it's funny you mentioned that means like it's interesting. There's a connection. You're talking about the language being like a puzzle. This is exactly how I describe learning languages in my book, The Strangest Fluency Secret. Just like the arch example I gave a minute ago, a good language lesson should work like this. It should give you enough information that you are able to complete the puzzle or finish the problem or whatever the thing is. Like if I just give you a math problem and you can't actually solve it, that will be frustrating for you. And it's just like that feeling I have when I'm walking and listening to something and I'm just like, why did they give me that information? Like there was like they explained something, but they didn't also answer those additional questions. So there's actually a lot of empathy needed to make sure you understand things. Now, it's nice if you get actual specific questions from learners, but as a teacher, you have to anticipate those things and try to make content in that way. But anyway, yes, so it often feels like a puzzle, and what I talk about in my book is how a lot of language learning, it's basically bad or broken puzzles, where you actually don't get enough information to complete the puzzle yourself, so you're left frustrated. You're left with questions and you don't understand something, and that's why you don't feel confident using it. So if you learn something, even if you understand it logically, if you don't feel that insight, if you don't feel like, yeah, I actually feel confident using this, then you won't use it. So you don't have to spend a lot of time practicing speaking. You should spend a lot of time getting insight, trying to get understanding. And this is not about just collecting more information. We're trying to get these insights as efficiently as possible. All right, let's see. Lewis Wild from Brazil. And then the goal here, you are my top secret method for speaking English as a native. There you go. Greetings from Nicaragua. Andrew, I have a problem remembering the new words I study. Any suggestion? Actually, well, this will help with that. But often when people are learning, it's not so much like, let's say you do learn a new word. Hearing that used again is useful, and people talk about spaced repetition, where you hear something and then wait a little while and then hear it again and then hear it, there's kind of a science to that. But for me, it's a lot more efficient and faster if you just hear it used in slightly different ways in some kind of intervals or whatever. It's not necessarily like you hear it and then 5 minutes later you have to hear it again. It really depends on how strong the connection is already when you learn something. So if you learn new information and you don't really care about it or you don't understand it very well, it's easy to forget. But if you're able to take new information like this and integrate it into something you already know, that integration is what holds that information into your mind a lot more easily. So let's just try this a little bit. I know I spend a lot of time talking about theory or how to learn, that kind of thing, because I think about this for myself also as a language learner. But I wanted to try this thing. So this is the kind of lesson that I would like while I'm walking around, or any time where I can just listen to something and actually become more fluent by listening to it. And the way that works, again, is because I'm deepening my understanding as I listen to something, rather than just getting information or hearing people talk about random stuff, and I'm not getting any review of that information. So for anybody just listening now, you can either just listen or you can watch me speak. I recommend you do both if you can, but you don't have to. But I thought I would just tell a quick story. I told this story to my children. This was a few days ago. So something happened to me that had never happened before. Something happened to me that had never happened before. And my life is pretty, I wouldn't say boring, but it's pretty regular. So I have kind of like a habit, I'm very habitual. So I have a habit of doing particular things. I might have a habit like if I go to a restaurant, I will sit in the same seat every time I go. Or I will walk, the same way generally when I'm taking a walk. Or I will often do things in the same way, the kind of habits that people have where my mind is on autopilot. So auto meaning self and pilot like it's driving itself. So if I don't have to think about things too much, then I can use my focus for other things. So again, I have a pretty habitual mind, and so it's typically nice for me if I'm walking. I like to think about things or just listen to some kind of lesson or information, maybe about politics or language learning or whatever. I think those things are interesting. And so on this occasion, this thing that happened that had not happened to me before, maybe you can guess what it was. It was very interesting, though, kind of shocking at the same time. So again, I'm out for a walk, and I'm just doing my usual walk. If I can show this for you, the people who are watching, you can just imagine. I leave from my house and walk up a hill. And there are a lot of hills where I am here in Nagasaki. It's a very hilly place, very hilly. So lots of mountains and hills around here, so people often go hiking. So I'm walking, just walking up the hill as usual, and even though my mind is habitual, I have a habitual mind, I like doing things. I kind of have a habit of doing things in a particular way, in a set way. So again, my mind is on autopilot a little bit as I'm walking around. And I'm walking up this hill, and I try to mix up my walk just a little bit. So there's only one main road from my house up to this other place on top of the hill where I like to walk around. So there's only one main road. I could go like a very different way, completely far away and still get up to the same place, but I don't really have time for that. So I'm just looking for a quick walk. Usually I take about 40 minutes to an hour, or maybe an hour around that time. So about 40 minutes, between 40 minutes and an hour. And so I'm walking up here, and then when I get up to the area where we've got houses and it's more of a neighborhood up here, I can vary my path for the day. So maybe one day I'm going this way and I go up and down, and then I take a different road or a different path or a different street. And sometimes I will maybe meet people up there and talk with people. Like there is actually a woman who is my wife's great aunt who lives up there. And she used to deliver milk. Now she does not anymore. But she will be up around here out cleaning a park. So there's a park right across the street from her house, and she is a very old lady, 80-something years old, I think. And so I walked by there a couple of weeks ago, and I saw her sitting on the grass with a big pair of scissors and cutting the grass by hand like that. So she was sitting down on the grass and cutting the grass by hand. I thought that was amazing. Now, this is not the shocking thing, because I had seen her doing that stuff before, and the park does really look very nice because she tends the park very well, to tend it. So she's like an attendant, like helping to make the park look very beautiful. So anyway, I'm out walking around. On this day, I did not walk by the park, and I don't know if she was out there or not, but I did not walk that way. I was walking a different way, different than I actually usually do. And I came back down, and as I was walking down the hill, I saw a Japanese guy walking up. And I kind of waved hello to him, and he waved hello to me. And he was still quite far down the hill. And again, I'm on a hill, place where I live in Nagasaki, very mountainous, very hilly, so lots of hills around here. So I'm walking down, and I hear, like, it's almost like a zzz kind of sound very quickly, and it's behind the guy. So I'm walking down the hill, he's walking up the hill, and I hear this sound, and then I hear like a pat kind of sound. It's hard to describe exactly, like something slammed into the concrete, but it was small. And I looked, and I was like, what the, like that's a very common expression about that, like what the hell, or what the, you might even hear what the fuck, if you hear something or see something amazing. And what I had seen, like I just saw it very quickly, but a pigeon actually fell from the sky and just landed, like broke its neck or whatever, landed on the concrete, and that was the end of that bird. And I had never seen that before. I am 45 years old, and I've never seen just a bird fall out of the sky like that. So you can say it fell out of the sky or it fell from the sky. And I looked up, and I see a few flocks of birds. So a flock like a group of pigeons like that. So I saw a few flocks of pigeons while I was out walking, and I had never seen that before. And so I'm kind of looking at that, and the guy walking up the hill, he's looking at me, and he's wondering what I'm pointing at. And I said, look, where I'm like, mite kudasai, like just telling him to look at that. And then sure enough, it was a pigeon just like, lying on the street. And so again, I had never seen, I've obviously seen dead birds, like dead birds fly into stuff. Actually, a bird flew into my window not that long ago. So this was like at my family's place. The bird just flew into the window. It was a small sparrow. So that's a different kind of bird, sparrow. And sometimes birds fly into glass, and they don't realize it. So that's why you'll sometimes see, if you've ever looked at a pane of glass, so this is a pane, like a window pane, the P-A-N-E. So we talk about the actual like sheet of glass, that's called a window pane. So sometimes on a window pane, there will be pictures, like a little black picture of some kind of like an owl or a predator bird. So a bird that might hunt other smaller birds, and that way when they see that, they fly away. So there are sometimes, if you have ever seen that, this is typically a silhouette. So a silhouette is where you just see the shadow of something. So just the outline, and usually in black. So we don't have any of those on our windows, and it's very rare. That's actually the first time a bird had hit our window, I think. But yeah, it just flew right into it and died, and we had to, get rid of the bird. So I have seen birds dead on the street before many times. That's the common thing. But I had never actually seen one fall from the sky, which was amazing. And I was just like, why would a bird fall from the sky like that? And I don't know what had happened to the bird. So I don't know what had happened. So maybe before that, it was being chased by a hawk or something like that, because there are falcons or hawks around here that will try to catch pigeons and things. And so they will fly down, and maybe like a peregrine falcon. So this is an interesting kind of bird, but I think these are there are some in Japan. But they fly down. It's the world's fastest flying bird, and so they will be up flying very high, and they dive down like a missile and just knock something like a pigeon that's flying, and then the pigeon is just disoriented and then falls down to the ground and dies. And then the bird can then fly down and get some like meal or whatever like that. So I don't know. I didn't see anything fly down after that, and I was just standing there waiting for a little bit to see what would happen, because I looked up and I didn't see any hawks up there either. But if pigeons are flying around, usually there could be some kind of trouble. So anyway, that was the shocking thing that happened to me, and I suppose it's not that amazing of a story, but for me on my walk, where it's usually a pretty habitual thing, a pretty simple thing, I don't really think much about it. I had never seen anything like that before. That was my first time to see that, and I thought it was very interesting, just because it was, again, a new thing. So our minds are always interested in new things, and that's why we tell stories about new things that happen rather than old things that happen. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. So that was kind of near this neighborhood, and then I ended up walking back home after that. It could be the case. So Bambino says maybe the bird got bullied. He got bullied by his own friends or other birds up there. I don't really know what happens when birds are up flying in the sky and if they fight with other birds or whatever. I have no idea. I've never seen that before, but maybe it happens. I'm not a bird expert, but maybe, who knows? Or maybe he was just flying and he had a heart attack or something like that, and he suddenly, something happened to him and just fell down, and that was the end. Anyway, it was a nice reminder, I guess, at the same time, to appreciate life. You never know how long your life will last, or when like the cord will be cut. So there's an old idea. I think this is from the like the Greek myths about like the fates, and so each person's life has a kind of long line like that, and the fates actually have scissors, and if they cut your lifeline, so your lifeline at a certain point, that's where you die. So just an interesting connection there. But whenever you see something, seeing a dead bird on the ground doesn't really, I don't know, if, like for me, it just seems like a part of life. But actually seeing the moment when it happened, I mean, maybe he got, I don't know, he died up at the top and then he just hit the ground. But at that moment, that was really like, wow, that was I don't know, just like literally a shocking thing. And then I told my family about that, and it was just an interesting story I told at home. Anyway, so I walked back down the mountainous, hilly street back to my house and was just thinking about that, and thought, maybe I will tell you all the story at some point. So anyway, that was just something simple, like talking about something where I can go deeper into the vocabulary, review some things. I could even go back and tell the story again in a slightly different way, just so you would have that ability to listen to it, and I wouldn't tell it again exactly the same way. I'm just telling the story off the cuff right now. So off the cuff. So off the cuff meaning like I'm just giving it to you. I don't have a plan about exactly how I'm going to tell you. And there are different ways I could describe this. I'm ad-libbing. I'm just telling the story. I don't have a specific script that I'm following. I'm just thinking of what happened and then describing it. And I know that's a thing where describing things in an everyday, some situation happens and you just want to know how to talk about it. I know a lot of people struggle with being able to express even just simple things like how do I describe whatever. And so part of what I'm trying to do here is not just teach you specific vocabulary, but give you examples of how I might talk about something. And if you see that, it erases any doubt you have about how you could do the same thing. So I can talk about a dead bird in the same way I can talk about a dead anything. And so now I can use that same vocabulary much more broadly and talk about other things as well. But let's go back. Let me know if that was useful for you. I don't know exactly how these will work, but again, thinking about if I don't even mind listening to people talking about their day or some interesting story as long as it's teaching me something and actually makes me feel more fluent as I go through it. So I should be listening to something, and each time I hear it, or maybe I listen to some variation in the vocabulary as I get the example, I should be feeling more confident about it. All right, let's see here. So since I mentioned your comment at the beginning of this, hopefully you see how the remembering of vocabulary becomes much easier. So the remembering of vocabulary becomes much easier. Or you can say it's easier to remember vocabulary when you can integrate it with a story or hear various examples of that thing used. So if you pick a particular word you're trying to learn, like I talk about in the How to Remember Any English Word training that I have, you're essentially trying to give your brain a way to connect easily with the vocabulary. And when you have that, then you can remember the word and use it well. So often if people can't, what I talk about in that training is trying to create a new category for that thing. Like if you can't remember computer, maybe you can remember laptop computer or some other thing like that, where you're taking the vocabulary and trying to create a bit more of a sticky or memorable story for yourself. And that will help you use it and remember it more easily. All right. Access says, I came across a new usage of the word tear. Or are you saying tear? I don't know. Can you explain the connection between the following two examples? Tears in my eyes and tear up something. That's just two different words. So there isn't a connection between like tear and tear, which are two different things. So this is a tricky thing, again, when you're trying to learn something, where if you just focus on a word and you say, what does that mean? The answer is often, it depends, and even the pronunciation depends on the situation. So if you have tear, like I have a tear in my eye, or if I am tearing up, like to tear up means to have tears coming out of my eyes. I'm tearing up. Like tearing up is typically the feeling of like just when the tears are starting to come. Like you watch a child, they look upset and they're kind of angry. Maybe they wanted a toy and they didn't get it. Like they're starting to tear up. They look like they're about to start crying. So that's where you're talking about tearing up. So this is a little bit different from full crying, where you actually have the tears and things coming out of your eyes. But if your eyes are just starting to feel that, like I've got something, now I'm feeling sad, I'm starting to tear up. So to tear up, that's the same spelling. To tear something up, that's where I take like a piece of paper and rip that thing. So these are two different words, but they have the same spelling. And this is one of the things that I do in Frederick, where I'm actually showing you how these different words work. So sometimes we can have words that sound the same, but they're spelled differently, or they could be even spelled differently but sound the same. And so we have lots of words like that. And it's the same thing in Japanese also, where you hear things like I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is with this meaning, and like maybe that meaning doesn't make sense. And so often for Japanese, I remember words more easily if I can also see how it's written, because in the same way, like I'm trying to give my brain more information to connect with so that I can understand something better. Let's see. All right, what Alvo says, how you doing? I'm doing all right. And got some hearts from Carlos there and a thumbs up. Ted says, good morning from Kuala Lumpur. And Bridget says, hello to my favorite teacher. Nice to see you there. Let's see, Teddy says, I'm a student since 2012 when YouTube is not really famous platform. People watching YouTube at that year because of K-pop and songs. Yeah, I've been here since 2010. And I remember even hearing about YouTube earlier than that, when it was just getting started, but I didn't get on it soon enough. All right, so I was just thank you. I appreciate it. I bought The Vault, your Netflix lessons. It is very helpful, and Frederick as well. Glad to hear it. If you know other people who would enjoy learning with us, then please recommend, like the channel, and let them know about the programs. Let's see. I can't read the Korean, but sir, do native know about the grammar itself, like nouns and pronouns? Yeah. So when natives think about grammar, we typically, we'll often just use something and probably without knowing what the term for that is. So most people know what a noun and a verb are, but a lot of people probably don't even know what an adjective is. Or even something like an adverb or phrasal verb, or we go into more detail about that. So if I'm talking with Japanese people about what something means, I will typically not ask them questions like, what is like ukemike or whatever, like some what is a grammar point, because people don't think about the language as an abstract rule, just like you shouldn't think about vocabulary as an abstract thing. You should be thinking about the vocabulary connected to something. So whenever you learn something like this, like you're learning a word like tear, especially if you see it written, that's why it's always a good idea to get a couple of different angles on something. You should see it written, hear it spoken, see somebody saying it. That's why, again, in Fluent for Life, in all of my programs, we really want to be able to show you what something looks like, how it sounds like, what it means, so that you feel confident using it. So remember, whenever you're learning things like that, natives will typically not know what a particular grammar point is, but they will know how to use it. And so if you get them thinking about it, usually natives will tell you that they think about a grammar point is like something that happens when you do this or that. So I don't think about the vocabulary. I think like, what do I say when this happens? I talk about this and learning this way in my book as well. So even though natives might not know the names of things beyond like nouns, now pronoun is a much more commonly discussed thing, although years ago most people probably didn't think about the term. But yeah, so most people would not be able to explain a grammar rule in that way, like the way a linguist or a language teacher would. But if you just want to be able to use something fluently, what's happening with natives is they are seeing examples, like I gave that story a moment ago about walking around. And when I tell that story, I could be telling you or telling my children or whatever, but I'm specifically trying to tell that so that they hear examples of vocabulary again and again in slightly different ways, or I'm telling them different expressions that they could use for the same situation. All of that naturally varied review is what builds the fluency automatically. So that's how you can actually listen to something like this. And if you're listening to a good, audio, something like that, that's what I'm trying to create for you. But let me know if that was helpful for you, and I can do it again next time. Because I have a very good idea of how I help people learn. But I'd really rather just spend more time doing the thing than talking about it. Like if I can come here on YouTube, instead of answering all the questions that my book answers or that my programs answer, I can just give a good example of what it's like to feel more fluent and confident as you just listen to something. So if I can help you understand it, you will feel more confident about using it. All right, let's see. Manuel says, paying attention the way you are teaching English, especially your storytelling method, but it is difficult for us English learners to tell an English story fluently. Sure, that's understandable. And my goal here is not trying to teach you how to tell a story. And this is another thing I talk about in my book, where we want to help you understand language patterns, so specific patterns like, let's say I'm beginning a story, And like this story here about a bird and me out for a walk, if I want to set that story up, like I can begin with something like, you won't believe this. You won't believe this. And so when I'm actually telling a story, what I'm doing is using patterns like this and just connecting them in different ways. In the same way I might take some Lego blocks, you know, those little blocks. I'm not going to draw this very well. So you take these different blocks and stack them, and you can build different things with them. It's the same blocks, but you're just building different things by connecting them in different ways. And what really happens when you're becoming fluent is you actually feel good about using particular bricks or blocks, whatever you want to call them. So typically, I think this is called a Lego brick rather than a block because it works as a connectable unit. So if you remember something like, you won't believe this, you won't believe this, or you aren't gonna believe this. So another variation of this, and even within these, like you could think about this as the blue block, and then there's a similar one that's a black block or a green block or whatever, that are really just different ways of describing the same thing. So you're not gonna believe this. So that's another way to say that. So even a short story, you're not gonna believe this. I was out for a walk and I saw a pigeon fall from the sky. So I told you a much longer story because I'm trying to build up the story and give you a bit more vocabulary and talk about what I'm doing and describing things in a bit more detail, but you don't have to do that. And so what I recommend people do is they're really trying to get fluent in these individual patterns of the language. So if you hear a lot of people begin an interesting story like, you won't believe this, you're not gonna believe this. Okay, so those are the things that if you feel confident about using these bricks, then you can easily connect them together. So this is another big thing I talk about in the book, where I talk about magnetic, let me see if this fits up here. Magnetic vocabulary. So magnetic vocabulary, meaning the words are magnetic to each other, so you know what word will naturally snap together with other words, so that way it's really easy for you to build sentences very quickly. And then those words are also magnetic to you, so you understand them very well. And so when you learn this way, you actually feel very confident about pieces of the language like this. So the storytelling is more about learning these kinds of things and then just connecting them together. But you don't have to worry about like finding like how to tell a specific story in a specific way. Actually have in Fluent for Life, there's a whole lesson set on telling stories and how to do this in general ways, but there's not one specific way you have to do that. But again, start with something simple, like this happened and then that happened. And that's a very simple story. But this other thing happened over here. All right, let's see. Can I buy a PDF of your book? Yep. So if you would like the book, anyone else here who is interested in learning more about how this works, you can click on the link in the description below this video. So the book is called The Strangest Fluency Secret, and you will see the link in the description below. So you can get the book, and if you have any questions about it, let me know. But yes, it's available along with links to our other programs down below. So when is the ebook coming out? So it's already out. I'm writing the book differently. I'm essentially writing individual chapters and releasing those in order. And so I've released the first 6 chapters of the book, and anybody who buys the book will get the rest of the other chapters. There will be 2 more, and it's taken me actually a really long time. I apologize for chapter 7 because there are a lot of different pieces, and I don't think it will be a really long chapter. It won't be as long as 5 and 6. Those were longer chapters. But chapter 7 is where we take all of that information and show you why it works. So up through chapter 6, you get to see the full system here, how to do this yourself, how to learn very easily, no matter where you live. And again, the things that we talk about in the book, those are also the things I can do for you in Fluent for Life. So the book is really the explanation about the kind of core principle of like what we're talking about here, really, where you can actually become more confident and fluent by understanding vocabulary well, and then you can start using it. So you don't have to learn something and then force yourself to speak before you feel comfortable. That's often very difficult, and many people are stuck because of that. So either they have speaking opportunities and they still don't feel confident about what they want to say, or they don't know enough words, or whatever the problem is, or they don't have any speaking opportunities and they feel stuck because if they can't speak, they can't get fluent. But I show you in the book how that isn't true. And there's actually a different way where we actually just feel confident about the information first. It's kind of it's a weird thing, and I think in the future that will be the way everybody learns, because everybody will realize, oh, it's a lot faster and easier just to become fluent and confident about information before you write the book, before you speak. I'm like reading these comments at the same time. Drew, you look very well. Your T-shirt looks nice on you. Well, thank you, Bridget. Very nice to hear that. X says, exactly. I was missing the pronunciation of tear in the second example. Thankfully, you're here. There you go. And again, you don't need me specifically to do that. But again, this is why it's important to get multiple angles of the things you learn. All right. Could you tell us something about the word draw, like drawer or withdraw? When you say tell you about something, like describe that or whatever, like typically that kind of idea about drawing something, we think about drawing a picture, but to like draw something, like it's essentially pulling it to you. Like I can draw people to me with my amazing personality. So that's the same kind of idea, to draw something. But you can think about like pulling something like that, like I'm pulling a marker across this whiteboard over here. So I'm drawing something, and in the same way I might have a chest of drawers, so the pronunciation changes, but again, I'm pulling those things in order to open them. So it's a similar idea, to draw. Let me know if that's what you're talking about. Let's see. So Marlboro says, what do you think is the main reason people struggle to become fluent in English? I don't know, it's a couple of different things, but I think the biggest issue is that people feel that they need to speak in order to become fluent. And if they can't speak, then they can't do anything. And that's what stops a lot of people. So I'll just... So the actual learning is quite easy when you understand what to do. But most people, if you think, I need to speak. And as I just mentioned, we've got these 2 groups. So there's group 1, so they do speak, but they don't feel confident about what they say, where it could be lots of different issues. Maybe you're worried about people judging you or making a mistake or anything like that. So I talk about all this stuff in the book, but this is the core problem that stops most people from improving, because they think they can't improve. So if you think this is the only way I need to speak, if that's the only way to build fluency, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for you, because you will just say you're stuck, and you will say, hey, is anybody around to practice speaking? And you will waste a lot of time. And again, the other people, those who don't speak, again, they have that same issue. So most people, I would say like 99% of people learning with, like YouTube videos or whatever, it's one of these two things. And you can also be fluent in some things that you know, so you feel confident about using some things, but you don't feel confident about saying other things. That's very common as well. But again, in general, when people talk about like why they don't improve very quickly or what the problem is, it's because they're waiting to speak. So if you're instead of doing this, you can actually build fluency before you speak. So I talk about this in chapter 7, and this is another thing I will be releasing very soon. So the typical understanding, and I don't know exactly how I will do this in the book, I'm still thinking about it, but there is a learning phase and then the speaking phase, S-P-E-A-K. So the learning phase and then the speaking phase, so P-H-A-S-E. So the learning period or the learning phase or the learning time or whatever. So most people try to do this by themselves, so they study, and then if they don't have anyone to speak with, then they are stuck. Just this situation up here. But what's actually happening is like, instead of this, and people think that like, let me use a different color. So once the speaking begins, this is where the fluency and the confidence start to develop. This is what people think. So most people, and it's not because people really think very much about it, it's just what most people assume about language learning. So I spend some time studying by myself or in a classroom, and then I have to use the language to get that, again, that speaking phase to feel fluent and confident. And if I practice enough, so this is where we talk about practice. And again, this is all the traditional way of thinking about language learning. So you learn something, you got learning phase, and then you got speaking phase, or you can call that practice. And then we've got the fluency and confidence starting from here, generally. That's what people think. But for what I do, the reason it doesn't really work this way is like, if you learn something and don't feel confident first, then you have to get confident about it when you're practicing, because there's no other way to do that. So if you learn something, like you hear a grammar point in a lesson video, but you don't feel sure about using it, then your only option is, you have to keep studying it more. You could do that, or just try to use it again and again until you feel confident, But for most people, that's really difficult because, again, this trap here of either you do speak or you don't. And that's basically it. But for what I teach, and this is what I talk about in the book, is, and I'll be talking specifically about this in chapter 7, but I prove it way before that in the book, is that when you learn something and actually understand it, and you feel confident about using it, the fluency and confidence actually begin over here as you learn. So the learning, that's not on there, that's fixing fitting in there. So to learn and practice is actually starting from here. So it's not like there's a learning phase and then a practice phase. It's a combination of learning and practice that build fluency the whole time, even before you speak. And the way it works is you understand something. So if you don't understand something, if you don't feel confident about using something, then you won't say it. So instead of trying to learn something a little bit and then not feel confident, it's much better to feel confident about it first. Doesn't that make sense? If anyone disagrees with that, or if they have any questions about how this works, let me know. But I show very simply how this is possible in The Strangest Fluency Secret. And I think most people, again, they will understand this when they see it explained like that. But again, most people just think this is how language learning is supposed to work. You don't understand things very well, and then you try to use them, and hopefully you get fluent. That's what people do. But you don't have to do that. You can actually learn in a way that makes it easy for you to understand. That's what I'm trying to do with this new series of videos I'm thinking about doing. So these maybe like fluency stories or something like that. But again, this is, I would say that's the biggest problem stopping people from becoming confident about it. Let's see. Can I buy the PDF? Is a PDF or a physical book? Yeah, so far it's PDF, but I look forward to releasing a physical version after it's done. But again, I'm releasing it in stages so people can read it, and if they have questions, they can let me know. If there's anything I can make it like, make it easier for people, or something isn't clear or whatever, then I can do that. Did you use AI to create your book, or is it based on your personal experience? Well, I use AI for kind of explaining almost the same way I would like write something, and I want to see how people react to it. So all of the ideas are mine. It's not like I asked AI how to make a book about language learning. I've been doing this for way longer than AI has been around. But AI has been useful for helping me try to explain ideas better, and typically I use it like I'm having a conversation. So it's kind of like I'm talking with you, and I say, here is an idea I have. And then you say, oh, I don't understand that. And I say, oh, well, like think about it this way. And then you say, now I understand. And so I know that's a better way to explain something. But AI is not like writing my book or anything like that. But certainly it's helpful for talking about ideas because I can do it so quickly. I don't have to wait for anyone to talk with. I can just get ideas about it. But what's interesting, like, I have to teach AI a lot. So if I'm talking with ChatGPT and I ask it questions about language learning, or if I ask ChatGPT, how should I learn a language? It will give like traditional, excuse me, it will give traditional explanations about how to learn, and it will teach me the same way most people teach languages. It still is like giving me this kind of advice. So if you say, hey, ChatGPT, let's create a program to teach me French or whatever, it's going to not really help me do that very well, actually. Because again, as I talked about at the beginning of this video, there's a lot of information, and it's very easy for ChatGPT to create more information, but it doesn't often give insights about helping you understand something in a particular way. It can if you know how to work with it, and that's one of the things actually I talk about in my book, about how to use AI to teach you, to help you learn things in a way that a native would actually do it, like a good teaching native. The same thing I do, like typically when I'm in these videos. But yeah, like if I wanted to use AI to write the book for me, I don't think I would be able to do it because AI doesn't know how to teach the way I teach. And so I've been teaching AI how to do that. Unfortunately, it doesn't remember what I teach. Like, so I can't affect like ChatGPT in that way. What's interesting though is if you go to Google. So if you do a Google search for naturally varied review, now it like understands how to teach that way, or it like at least it understands like what the process is. I think maybe ChatGPT might. I don't know. You'd have to check on your own version of it, but Google will, like now Google's AI, it will talk about that, and it will cite me actually as like the source for a lot of that information. Let's see. Have you any advice for fluency in writing? Is your strategy for fluency applicable also for writing? It depends on what you mean by fluency in writing. You mean like how to write quickly or just to become a good writer. If you're asking about how to be a good writer, the only thing I would really recommend is read good writers and then actually write down by hand what they write. So it's a similar idea where we're looking for comparisons. Again, the mind learns very easily that way, where we can look at bad writing versus good writing. Like, here's an example of describing something in a good way or in a bad way, or here's a way that's fun to read or not fun to read. And if you're able to compare those two things, then that would help you write better. But it's something I would recommend, actually physically writing stuff by hand. You can do it on a computer also, but let's see. CNC is back. How's everything going? I was watching some videos on YouTube related to bodybuilders, and the main character was Ronnie Coleman, but it was so hard to understand the conversation. Yeah, I've heard that name before. I don't know much about bodybuilding, though. Let's see. We got the Omocha over there. Let's see. How can I be fluent and prepare for the IELTS exam? I have got a book which has a lot of sample answers. I have to inherit it. What is that? Inherit to these topics? Tell me how to do this. I cannot remember the flow of story. Please answer this. All right, well, number one, if you're looking for advice on a specific test, I would recommend you go to channels here on YouTube that talk about that. I can help you get fluent, although it might not be the best advice for a particular test like IELTS. But in general, if you just need to remember certain answers or you need to remember certain kinds of answers, then just cram and study for the test, whatever it is you have to do. But I think there is a speaking component for that. But if there is, again, what you're trying to do is the same thing we're talking about here, where you actually build understanding first by really making sure you understand and get good examples of the language. If you want to see how this works, that's what I talk about in my book. But I don't know how quickly you need to take the exam, but we always want to make sure we get the best advice possible. So find people who focus on whatever the test is, IELTS in your case, and get good help with that. So I'd like to give more information, but I want to make sure you get the best information you can. Let's see, CNC, maybe you've to spend time studying some videos about bodybuilding, and this way you're going to get used to the way he speaks. Yes, so yeah, if he didn't say whether the issue was the way he was speaking or the actual content of the information. It could be both. Wow. Look at that. All right. Well, let me know, was this video, like the story about the bird and all that, was that helpful for you? Would you like content where you could just listen to something, even if you're not watching it? You could watch it also. If you like to see my pretty face and the lovely writing and examples I put up here. But that's something I would like for Japanese, and I don't really find that anywhere. Maybe somebody produces that. I don't know. I haven't found that. But it's certainly helpful for me when I think about hearing examples of things and getting that naturally varied review without having to stop a video and pause it and go get an explanation or whatever. It might not be perfectly clear, but that's another benefit of doing a live video where if people have questions, they can ask me and I can answer that. But let me know if that was helpful for you, then I can try doing that again maybe next time. Let me know. But anyway, the learning and the fluency building is actually quite easy to do if you get the right examples, and that's what I was trying to prove with that story, where people have. It doesn't necessarily need to be from me, but when you're collecting these examples, it's nice if you don't have to go through the work of doing that. Again, that's why we do all that work for you in Fluent for Life. But if you're getting these examples yourself, and it's nice to have them collected for you, I just don't know. I haven't really found that easily for this kind of content. So I thought maybe I would do something like that. But again, it it's trying to, without worrying about speaking, if you can get lots of good examples of things that help you understand it well, and you still get that review, so you don't just hear it one time, even if you understand it, you hear it used again and again in slightly different ways, and that really builds your memory. And when you notice yourself using things, that's where you know, this method is actually working. All right. So the IELTS people don't teach like me. Well, there must be somebody. I mean, I can't be the only person who uses like stories, and I have names for the stuff I do, like naturally varied review and aha moments and fluency triggers and all that stuff. But it's really just trying to make the language understandable in the language. So instead of using Korean to teach you English or whatever the language is, I want to actually help you understand English in English. And if you can do that, then you will become a much more confident speaker. All right. I guess, yeah, I feel bad. I don't really know, like, I don't know. Since I don't know the IELTS or specific testing kind of worlds or whatever that well, I can't really make a good recommendation. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to work with someone who is an IELTS teacher or something like that. Find out what exactly they're doing and maybe help them in some way. I don't know. But anyway, let's see, Marlboro again. I was wondering, what do you think makes someone truly fluent in English as you describe in your book? Oh, it's just the ability to use the language automatically. But one of the things that I make clear in the book is that you're actually getting fluent in individual words and phrases as you understand them well. So instead of trying to think about fluent in English, think about fluent in particular things, like I'm good at using this word or this phrase or whatever. And as you expand that, you become better at speaking the whole language. So that's really what it means. So it's the same fluency for really fluent in anything, like you're able to do it without thinking, like fluent in driving a car, where you don't have to think about, I got to push down this pedal and turn this thing and do other stuff like that. It's just automatic for you. The only, or not really the only, but the big difference with language learning versus other skill development is that you have to deal with or prepare for the unpredictability of how you use the language. So in like learning to drive a car, you still have to deal with people on the road, but the actual driving of the car doesn't change. It's quite simple. But with speaking, you have to be prepared for lots of different people. Like CNC just said a moment ago about how you can understand one thing, but then you watch a YouTube video about something else and it sounds like a different language, or you can't hear anything. Another example for me, like I was watching two different Japanese cartoons. One was Chibi Maruko and the other was, what was that? Shingeki no Kyozu. So, or not, now I forget the name of it. What did I... Yeah, I think, wait, it's Attack on Titan, but I was just like thinking of the Japanese name of it. But the Shingeki no Kyojin, like I'm thinking of like the wrong title. But anyway, like one of those is easy to understand and the other is much more difficult. You know, it's people speaking clearly versus not speaking clearly, or talking about everyday daily life stuff versus talking about war and, you know, difficult military vocabulary and stuff like that. So you don't have to think about it like I'm fluent or I'm not fluent. It's just you can be good at some things and not good at others. So as you become more confident, it's easier to get into more difficult stuff and stretch yourself and expand your ability. But it's a very simple explanation for talking about fluency. Let's see. Access again for me. Maybe professional speaking is easier than daily routine speaking, so it was helpful. I'm looking forward to more. Maybe professional speaking is easier than daily routine speaking. Yeah, it also depends. If you're giving speeches, typical professional speakers usually have some kind of script. Even if they're not reading it, it's something that they practice. So for me, I don't want to do that, because if I practice something, then it's showing you how I speak if I practice. But I want to show you how I speak when I don't practice. So right now, I don't have a plan. I'm just talking because I want to show you what it's like in this situation, I use this vocabulary. And so that can help you do the same thing. So you're in a professional speaking environment, then you probably take some time to write something. Like if I'm telling a story about a pigeon falling out of the sky, then I can tell that in a different way with a script and a story, or in a movie or something like that, rather than just an everyday explanation of it. But I think a lot of people struggle with just simple explanations of things. They wonder, how do I say this? Like something happens and you don't know how to express yourself. That's a frustrating thing. I remember being in, where was I? I was in Colombia. So South America, Colombia. And I was in a taxi, and I don't speak Spanish, and I was in a taxi going to the airport, and I was trying to talk with the driver, and I was just he was almost laughing because I couldn't say what I wanted to say. And I don't speak Spanish at all. I can understand a little bit because it's similar to English, and I remember some. I did learn Spanish in college, but not well. I actually tell that story in I tell a story about learning Spanish in college in the book. You can read that if you're interested. But anyway, it was a frustrating thing when you have something you want to say and you can't express it. But when you can describe yourself and describe the things around you, and it's easy, and you can just say, oh, like this and that, and it's very easy to talk about like I'm talking now. So when you can do that, it feels very freeing. You can talk about things easily and describe things. That's what I'm trying to give to learners, to try to help you feel that confidence and ease when you speak. So I truly appreciate your detailed explanation. It really helped me understand the whole concept. Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. The reason I wrote the whole book is because it's actually a simple idea, but it's difficult for people to believe because everybody thinks that you need to do this. So you can speak if you want to. There are some people who are learning well and speaking, and they don't have an issue, but those people are typically not watching my videos. If your English is already great and you don't have trouble with speaking, you're probably not watching this kind of content. So people watching this kind of content, you already know some English, but maybe you don't feel confident about using it, or you think you need to know more words or whatever. There are lots of different reasons why you might have trouble speaking. But this one way of understanding the language makes all of that much easier. So that's what I describe in the book. So if you'd like to know more information about that, that's why I wrote it. And it's available by clicking on the link in the description below this video. And looks like last one here from Alway. The book you mentioned, is it a book with MP3s or video that we can download, listen, and watch, or is it just a book we can take it with us to read? Well, it's digital. So if you're talking about my book, The Strangest Fluency Secret, so far it's only digital. And I didn't release an audiobook version yet because the book is not finished. So I'm writing the chapters. So far, people are really excited about it and they're enjoying learning with that. And the idea makes sense, and nobody has had any questions or said, I don't understand what this means or whatever. At least not that I've heard. I've been asking people, but everybody has been excited so far. But when it's done, then I would like to release an audiobook version. I think actually, because I talk about naturally varied review in it, I will probably release a few different audiobook versions of it. I'm thinking about that, and maybe even using AI voices with that as well. So we'll see. Let's see. CNC says, now that you mention it, you have a great video where the guy is who makes trucks with wood. I don't know. He is like a carpenter, and the guy's accent is awesome. Oh, yeah. That's one of the Master English Conversation series videos. So those are all in Fluent for Life. And that was it's a guy who, I don't know if he still does that, but he helps remodel, it was like air, what do they call those things? It was a specific kind of like trailer for people, like a camping trailer. But yeah, that's an interesting conversation. So that we show you how to do that. That's all of the lesson sets in Fluent for Life teach in that way, where we're trying to give you conversations and examples of people talking about stuff and how it works and things like that. So sometimes we're just sitting and talking, but other times we're actually, moving something around. And I have one of the lesson sets is about like a street magician. And so learning the specific ways that he describes things and talks to the audience or whatever, that was a fun lesson set to do. And Marlboro again I've been following your videos from the beginning, and they've been incredibly helpful in building my confidence and fluency in English. I'm glad to hear it. If you have benefited, then please like the video and share it and let other people know that they can improve this way. Of course, I will always say it's nice to speak if you can, but if you cannot, that doesn't have to stop you. Okay, just because you can't speak well or you don't feel confident yet, you don't have to wait to become confident. You don't have to force yourself to speak. It actually is very easy to feel more confident even before you say a word. I know it sounds unbelievable, but you don't really have much of an option. Either you're going to try to just do this by getting more good information, or you can actually feel confident about speaking and then speak. That's really the whole point. What time do I usually do lives? Around this time. It's Thursday morning here in Japan. So I should probably be back here again, the same time. And maybe I will try telling another one of these stories. But if you have enjoyed it, do click the like button and let me know. Leave a comment, and if you have any questions or specific things you struggle with talking about, then let me know, because that's what I'm here for. All right, have a fantastic day. You can click on the links in the description below this video if you'd like to learn more about that, and I'll see you in the next video.